All right, this is jpeg2RAW, show number 27, January 31st, and I don't know what I have there and the dates for that show notes, Tim, but tonight I am joined by Tim Kimperly. How you doing, Tim?
Very good, Mike. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. And Kathleen Bowie. How you doing, Kathleen?
I'm doing great. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing fine. Hold on. We got the video messed up.
Welcome to everyone out there in chat. Can you guys hear us out there?
Yeah. So we tried something new tonight, and and it didn't quite work exactly how it was supposed to work. But we'll improve that over time. So just, I didn't want to have to do this, but I'll do it anyway. What you guys heard through our set in the Hangout, the audio sounded a little choppy, but it should have sound fine out there. It's just because of the way Google does it. And I forgot to switch us back to the video. So when the opening thing ended, it just went blank. We were still there, it just went blank. But anyway, tonight we try something a little new in the beginning. We'll try something a little new in the end, and then next week we'll get even better at it. Tonight we have a special guest, Stacie Turner. Stacie, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Stacie, we were so excited that you were here. We just love your work and love what you're doing with film photography, and you're really inspirational to a lot of people. So thanks for joining us.
Well, you're so sweet. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Go ahead, Kathleen.
No, you go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, well, the first thing, when I'm looking at your images, Stacie, is I see you'd like to do a lot of black and whites.
I do. I actually started out as an all black and white photographer and really only started offering color to clients about 6 months ago.
Oh, okay.
Tell us about your start. How did you get into photography?
How far back do you want me to go? Should I skip the pinhole camera in brownies and move up to puberty?
No way. Tell us from the beginning. We want to hear it all.
Yeah,
I don't remember that much. I remember there was some little project, and when you're 5 years old and you make the pinhole camera. But my mother and stepfather are both very avid amateur photographers. I grew up in a house with a dark room in the basement, chemicals all over the kitchen in glass jars. You didn't drink things if you weren't 100% sure what it was. And they actually had a 1-hour photo place with custom darkroom work as their business for quite a while until digital sort of put all those people out of business. So I really grew up around photography. And of course, there's this horrible thing that your parents do, so I didn't do it. It was, the thing to be avoided.
You're against it, yeah.
My stepfather gave me my first SLR camera when I was 11 or 12, maybe.
Do you remember what it was?
I actually still have it in a drawer in the back room. It's an old Konica Auto Reflex.
Okay.
With a 70 to 200 millimeter lens on it.
Wow, that's not a bad lens
It's
for your
huge,
first one.
it's this huge lens for this little tiny kid, right?
Right. It probably
and
was
then
older than you did.
So I worked with that when I was a teenager, and then I put photography away and didn't really come back to it until a year or two before I had kids, when I got another old film camera, a Pentax, sort of the equivalent of the Rebel, the Canon Rebel.
Okay.
And shot with that all on auto. I mean, just absolutely 100% on auto, no settings, just stick the film in and let the camera do its magical thing. And then after I had kids, I did that horrible thing that all portrait photographers hate, where I got the Canon Rebel because I wanted to take better pictures of my kids. And then everyone says, "Oh, you're so good. You should go into business." So I did, long before I should have.
Right. I did the same thing.
And now I'm still here. I started doing. Ironically, I started offering film to clients at about the same time that I started offering color digital. I had been all black and white digital until last year.
Wow. So were your parents aware that you were shooting in all auto, and how did they feel about that?
I think my mother still shoots in all auto anyway.
Wow.
And I think my stepfather was probably just so happy that I was taking pictures that, he didn't really care.
Right. He wasn't going to be picky. Right. That's too funny. Well, awesome. So now what do you shoot with? What's your camera that you're shooting with now? Well, I think you have a couple, don't you?
My main digital camera is a 5D Classic. I actually bought a new-to-me 5D last November because mine had finally died.
Okay.
My 35mm film camera is the Canon EOS 3, which is a really great film camera for Canon users who want to get into film because you can buy the bodies really cheap. It's like $350 to get an EOS 3 body, which is terrifyingly nothing when you're used to looking at the prices for digital bodies.
And you can still find film?
Oh, yeah. I get most of mine from Amazon.
Okay, okay.
Just because it's easy.
And do you develop it yourself, or do you take it somewhere?
I don't. I ship to a lab. I do all my developing through a place called North Coast Photographics out of San Diego. So I stick it in a box and I ship it out there. Okay. Mostly because they do both black and white and color. We actually have a lab about 2 towns over that I should sort of pimp and note that, photosynthesis in Manchester, Connecticut also develops. But he isn't capable of doing the volume with any real ease of like, here's 20 rolls of film and I need high resolution scans of them all next week.
Oh, so they'll scan it to you so you can get an idea of what they look like before they come in the mail.
Yeah, they don't send you the scans. They don't have an FTP service or anything. Miller's does, and Richard Photolab does.
Okay.
North Coast, they just scan them and they send it to you on a disc.
Wow, okay. So now here's a question, because I haven't shot film. It's probably been 8 years. And so my question is are your lenses interchangeable on your 2 cameras, your film and your digital, or do you have to have different lenses for each camera?
No. If it goes on your 5D, it'll go on your EOS 3.
Okay, cool. Okay.
And similarly with Nikon, unless you have the sort of little cheapy starter consumer cameras, the lenses go back and forth.
Okay, cool.
And I didn't actually finish the camera question. I've also got a Bronica, which is a medium format film camera, and I shoot a lot of Holgas. I think I have 3 of those now.
Yeah, I know in your blog, the term Holga, you post that in your blog, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a type of camera.
Explain to us what Holga is.
A Holga is a medium format film camera. They cost about $30. They are manufactured in China. They are notoriously badly made. They have light leaks. They have vignetting. They have a very soft focus, and they tend to distort around the edges. They were originally made in China to sort of be like a cheap thing that you could buy as a Chinese consumer who wanted to enter the film market. And then, of course, right as the guy created these things, the digital camera world took off. And they would have died a poorly made product death, except that some art schools in the States started using them as teaching tools because you can't change any settings. I mean, the camera's stupid. It doesn't do anything for you. But you also only have 1 aperture and 1 shutter speed.
What? I didn't know that about Holga. I had no idea. How in the world?
1 aperture and 1 shutter speed. What do you adjust to get proper exposure?
Oh, you don't. You put the ISO of the film in. That's the most appropriate. Okay. And then you can sort of stop down a little bit by putting filters over it to make it to decrease your exposure. But you're working with what you got.
Wow.
So what is the shutter speed and what is the
shutter speed's about 1/100, and the aperture is somewhere between f8 and f11. It varies from camera to camera.
Oh, wow, yeah. A lot of blur is happening.
Yeah, it's really... I actually picked them up because it was sort of, you get really... When you're working with a digital camera especially, it's so much about precision, and digitals are so unforgiving. People will say to me, like, oh, I'm really scared to go to film. I'm like, oh, film's nothing. Are you kidding? Like, you can throw Tri-X in, and you get, like, 3 or 4 stops of latitude. I mean, you can mark your exposure up all over the place and it doesn't matter. But digital's like slide film. If you aren't exposed exactly right, forget it. You're toast.
Wow.
So when I was doing a lot of digital work, you can get really, really nitpicky about these very, very precise things and very technical work and technical details. And I was really starting to hate it. I just hated shooting.
It also depends on who you talk to. One person can look at it and say, technically, I think it should be A, B, C, and the other person would say, well, technically, I think it should be X, Y, and Z. It all depends on your perspective of it as well.
Oh, yeah, yeah, and people can start really into these like detailed nitty-gritty arguments about things that you take 3 steps back and you're like, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So I started shooting a Holga just because it was this kind of like Zen-like therapy. You don't have any control over it. All you can control is the composition, and even then you're limited because the only thing that's going to be in focus is right dead center anyway.
Smack in the center.
Yeah, so...
Now you have me itching to go buy myself a $30 Holga camera.
Last March, I put one of them in a Ziploc bag, and I was taking pictures of my kids jumping into the pool on vacation from underwater. Yeah. And some guy was like, "You're going to break that really expensive camera." I don't care. It's like the film costs more to buy the film and develop the film. So
exactly.
The camera breaks,
that's what your cost is.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, looking at Amazon, they got one for $30, and it's rated with 4.5 stars.
Huh.
Love it. Buy it for me.
It's in the mail.
Thank you. Well, I just love the Holga images because aside from you just wanting to let free, the images look like you feel free when you're taking them. And it really translates in the image that it's not about the technicality. And sometimes, I can't remember which guest it was. I think maybe it was last week about how we talked about how you're supposed to know your technical stuff, but at some point in time, every once in a while, you got to throw it out the window and just shoot what feels right to you. And so that Holga camera is really giving you the ability to do that.
One of the things that I do a lot of teaching and a lot of sort of one-on-one teaching, and one of the things that I say a lot is that technique in a photographer, it kind of reminds me of ballet dancers. When you look at a dancer, if they're good, you look at them and you think, wow, it took such a long time to get so good at such a very difficult thing. Look at how good they are at these very difficult things. But when you look at the really great dancers, it's just like, it looks like it's easy. They're flying and there's no effort.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the real goals to get to in any art, but also photography, is you're not, when someone looks at your work, they shouldn't be like, wow, she's really good at nailing it at, F1-2, or,
right.
Man, look at this like really complicated technical thing he did with exposure. Just be like, wow, that's a really great picture. That moves me.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. That's great. What you talked about, buying the right speed film. So tell us, how do you pick your speed film, and is part of it kind of crossing your fingers and hoping for the best?
No, I'm here. Are you talking specifically about Holgas or about other cameras that allow you to?
Let's talk about Holga first, and then I have another question for you as far as your other cameras go.
Okay. So iMeter, I actually use an app on my iPhone, and it's I don't think I would want to use it if I were doing commercial product photography, but for portraits, it's just fine.
There's an app for metering light?
Yeah.
It uses the camera, I take it?
Yeah, it uses the camera on the iPhone. I think it's
Android
Nation. I think if you type light meter into iTunes, it pops up.
Okay.
I'm Android, so I'll do that while we're talking and look and see if we have something. But go ahead.
You the scene and you lock in. You know it's going to be f11-ish, and you know it's going to be 1/100. So you lock those in, and then it'll tell you what ISO you have to have, and you load that film into the camera, and you just keep in your bag a wide selection.
Compartment. Okay, that's smart. I like that. Now, do you shoot film for sessions?
Not as much. I won't do it for mini sessions because the cost of mini sessions is deliberately kept low to make it more affordable.
Right.
And if I put in the cost of developing and scanning and buying film,
nothing.
Right. Now with regular sessions, if people ask, I'll ask them, do you want film images? And some people say, no, I just want digital. And some people say, absolutely, that's why I'm hiring you, I want film. And some people are just like, oh, you shoot film? People still do that? I didn't know that. I'm like, did you look at my website?
Yeah, without looking at your website, I wouldn't have thought of that either. Hey, what was the name of that app? Stephen in chat's asking, what was the name of that app for the iPhone?
I think the company is Amber Nation. But just type light meter into iPhone and it comes up.
And
annoyingly enough, it's called light meter when you look at it on your iPhone.
I just found one for Android called BCam Light Meter. So if anybody has Android and they want to find one, I haven't used it. I don't know how good it is, but I'm downloading it now.
Yeah, I found a couple of different ones, but I didn't find that one.
So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, that's a neat tool to have, and like you said, it's not going to probably be 100% accurate. And I heard you say you probably wouldn't use it on a commissioned portrait session. but it's a neat thing to have, you know, just to kind of see how it works for you and take it with a grain of salt type of thing. And I have done Holga shots for clients, what I do then actually is I use my digital camera to meter it and check the histogram in the digital camera, and that gives me a sense where I want to be. That's smart. I like that. Why not?
You don't want to know how many rolls of film I ruined before it occurred to me that I was actually perfectly capable of using an external meter. Just because the camera didn't have one didn't mean I didn't get to use one.
Right, yeah, that's smart. That's really good. I commend you for keeping film around, because I know it's really difficult, just price-wise, for us photographers to even consider using film, because so much of our profit goes out the window, it feels like. So I think it's great. I mean, I started off with film 9 years ago, and I've said this before, the first wedding I shot, I only charged them like $350, and I think it cost me $400 and something dollars to film the film.
Oh my.
That hurts.
So lesson learned for me, I had to raise my prices, obviously, but I remember when the digital age started, just thinking of, oh my goodness, I get to keep so much more of what I'm charging, because I'm not developing film. So, go ahead.
I said, what people who are hardcore film will tell you is the equipment's cheaper. You know, a new camera body, like I said, you can get a perfectly good 35mm body for $350, whereas even a used good digital body will run you $1,000, $1,200, and a new, actually current, updated one is $2,700.
Yeah.
But I think that's a bit of a false economy, because you end up buying toys. You're just like, oh, well, you know, the camera's so cheap that I can afford to buy all these other toys now.
Right, sure.
Well, you do have to think about the memory cards, the storage of your stuff, your editing software. You know, those are costs that you didn't have when you shot only film.
So now I think if you do shoot film, I don't know of anyone who shoots film. I'm sure there are some people, but most people are still scanning it. They're still loading it onto a computer. Even if they're not doing any editing, they're displaying them online. They may have online galleries that they're showing the clients.
That's true. Once you take a film photo, you still often want to get it into the computer to do editing to it.
Well, and even if you don't edit it, even if you're just like, I get it perfectly right in camera, and then I have the lab scan it, and then I'm done, you know, if you're shooting weddings, they're still going to want all those 400 pictures, 500 pictures on their Facebook.
Right.
Like, they're not going to be like, oh, well, it's film, okay, I only get prints.
Right.
No, I want my files.
Right. I mean, I can't tell you, I remember after every single session, I'm not sure how you do it, but I would spend hours taking every single 4x6 print and stuffing it into an album somewhere so I can give it to my clients. It's very time consuming. And so whatever you're doing it, whatever your process is, I think that it's really great and commendable that you're hanging on to it, because it is such a rare art form that's being thrown out the window, and I just think that you're kind of keeping it alive.
I don't know. I think that film is kind of the new black. I think if you go on to a lot of sort of portrait boards, you'll find a lot of people are sort of, you know, part of it I think is that it's sort of searching for a niche. I think that Jonathan Canless's Film Is Not Dead is really hot.
Yeah, that's true.
So, you know, I do think that it's an expensive niche. You can make it work, but I wouldn't come right out of the gate these days and say, oh, well, you know, instead of buying a 5D Mark III, which should be here any day now.
Oh, you didn't order one?
No.
Oh.
I'm going to wait and see if it's as nasty as the 5D Mark II, which a lot of people that I know bought didn't like.
I have it and I love it.
I know some people love it, but I've just heard a lot of stories of focus issues.
It's risky, and had I known all those focus issues when I bought it, I would have been more sketchy as well.
And I will say that's what went. When my first 5D died, first the outer focal points went, and then the inner focal point went, and I was going, have I really started to suck in the last 3 months? Why am I only getting like 25% of my shots in focus?
Yeah.
You know, you could always come over to the Nikon side.
Well, to the Sony side.
I priced it. I priced it out, and I was like, it would cost so much.
Once you get invested in gear, it lenses.
Once you have all the lenses, that's it. You can't switch anymore.
It's very difficult to switch. But one question I had for you is, you know, you shoot the film and you buy the film online, but who is still making film? Is Fujifilm still making film?
Oh yeah, Fuji still makes film. Kodak, even though they've gone bankrupt, still makes film. those are the two big ones. Ilford still makes film.
Okay.
Plus, of course, there's a whole bunch of really cheap. Shanghai makes a really cheap film. There's a couple other really sort of cheap, which I've not tried, so I can't vouch for whether they're good or not.
I've got to imagine as you mentioned Kodak going bankrupt, that they will eventually stop that line as they just completely die away.
I don't know. My understanding is actually that the film division is sort of the only part of Kodak that was still profitable.
Really, even today, the film division is still profitable.
Well, I think that's a lot to do with their patents also. They get a lot of money off patents that they have.
Well, and I think they were holding out that they could sell some of those patents that would save the company, and it doesn't look that way. But even if they go away, you still got Fujifilm, who...
Still got Fuji and Ilford.
Fuji is a huge company that, can keep that going for a long time.
Do you find that one name brand pulls different saturations than others?
They're all different. They're all totally different.
Because I remember feeling like Kodak, once again, it was like 9 years ago, but I remember feeling like Kodak pulled red and Fuji more pulled the greens out. And so, I mean, this has been a long time. So I remember sitting there and saying, I'm doing a portrait session, so I want to buy this name brand, or I'm doing this kind of session, so I'm going to go for this name brand. Is that something that you still kind of deal with?
I do. There's certain, unfortunately, I have this, my mother, because they had this photo company, so she keeps giving me all this film that she finds in her house, and I keep finding films that I really love and then discovering that it's been expired for 5 years and nobody makes it anymore.
Right.
I think my favorite black and white is Kodak Tri-X 400. I loved 320. They don't make that one anymore. The Tri-X 400 is just very malleable. You can push and pull it in any direction. It's just a really easy film to work with. I don't think I have a favorite color film because every time I find one I like, it turns out it's one of my weird expired ones and it's not available anymore.
And do you find that film has a wider dynamic range? Is more forgiving?
It's more forgiving for me. I mean, I've read a lot where people will say, oh, well, film has this wider dynamic range, and then other people will say, no, that's because you're not really using good digital equipment or you don't know how to use your digital equipment. For me, I have found that I don't worry at all about blowing highlights with film. I worry a little bit more about blocking shadows.
Okay.
You can shoot in full sun with film. I went out and took my kid out today, and I was shooting her in full sun, and she had on a dress with a white collar and white cuffs, and those just blew like crazy. I mean, I was doing all sorts of recovery. I did one, and it's up on my Facebook, but it's just really, I mean, it's white. It's white in full sun, and in digital that goes. With film, I wouldn't have even worried about it.
Really? Film would have held that?
Film loses it in the shadows first.
Huh. Interesting. I never really got into photography until digital, so I don't have much background in film. Well,
then, I was going to ask you, we talked a little bit about, post-processing your images with film or with digital. And I see a lot of consistency in your images as far as the editing goes. Do you stay pretty much close to home? And do you feel like you venture out and do different things to every image? What's kind of your style?
I feel like I'm a pretty heavy, well, with black and white, I have an action that I wrote probably a year and a half ago that I use on just about every black and white picture in Photoshop, which is pretty straightforward. It's a black and white adjustment layer and a gradient map adjustment layer, and it adds contrast and adds brightness, and then you can go in and tweak adjustments on each layer. And I love the black and white adjustment layer because you can adjust the saturation of individual colors.
Is that like a, you're talking about a, I'm sorry, the word's skipping my mind. I can't think. I'm sorry. Move on.
I'll say if you go into like Photoshop, at least 4 or higher, layers, adjustment layer, black and white is the layer that I'm
adjustment. Okay. Yeah. Layer, adjustment layer, black and white. Gotcha.
With
so
color,
adjustment layer, a gradient layer, and then a contrast layer?
Yeah, it curves contrast and it curves lighten layer. And then that way it can go in and...
But that's what probably makes it so beautiful.
So then you can adjust the opacity of each layer, and you can adjust the individual colors with the black and white layer.
Yeah.
It tends to blow when I do this. I know that it makes it really bright. So I also have something that I added to mine, which is just a check for blowouts. Then I'll go back in and mask out areas that are blowing.
The word I was trying to think of was channel mixer. Do you ever use the channel mixer for your black and white?
I don't.
Okay.
I do not at all. I also don't use Lightroom at all. I know a lot of people really, really love Lightroom now, and I'm this diehard holdout for Photoshop.
I love Lightroom.
And so do I.
I keep trying. I'm with you, Stacie. Trying to get into the Lightroom mode because I understand the whole concept of keeping your images in Lightroom and doing as much as you can without having to move them here and there. But I'm just so in love with Photoshop, and I guess it's what you're used to. And once I get in there, I just feel like I'm at home.
Well,
I've been using Photoshop for over 12 years. I mean, it's just, I was the girl in the office where they were like, well, someone's got to learn how to use this, so we picked you.
Awesome.
if you like to use a lot of layers, then you know Photoshop is really the only place to do that. Lightroom is not going to be the layers. I know Kathleen likes to use a lot of layers, and you know using layers is one of the major things about Lightroom that's so powerful. I mean about Photoshop that's so powerful. So you know if Photoshop works for you, why move to Lightroom?
Yeah, I have a heavy layers user. If I'm really playing. The one that's on Facebook right now, I think, has 10 layers.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. Okay, so let's talk about your color images. Do you have actions that you use for those as well?
Yes and no. I mean, I do each one individually. It's what I'll usually do with a session is I'll do one, and I'll really spend probably 20, 30 minutes on, you know, really playing with how I want with the lighting in that scene. Adjustment layers and fill layers and all these things, and then I'll create a template and I can plug all the other pictures in from the same kid from that moment into the same place.
You and I are gluttons for punishment because that's exactly the way that I do it. I meet these photographers who are so methodical in the sense that they've come up with their look and they do it with every image and they just run it through and they are on task, and I'm just like, am I bad? Because I like spending 20 minutes with one image to get that image, and then I'll make all the other ones feel similar. But I'm not that quick, and I'm trying to get quicker about it, but I just need to, I guess, sit with what I do and say it works, right?
You're quicker than me. I make it up as I go with every image.
It's probably not efficient, and if I were a high volume studio, there's no way that I could do it.
That's the key right there. Yeah, I'm not high volume either. I limit myself a lot.
But you know, even in October, the highest volume month of the year, I may have 4 sessions a week. I mean, I'm dying that month, but it's still
too much. It's too much.
And there are people who do 4 sessions a week, and they're like, "Oh, well, that's my downtime. That's when it's slow."
But I think you definitely have to have a workflow set up if you're going to be doing that much. Yeah, Lightroom 4 beta is out, and not that you, Stacie or Kathleen, want to try that, but something that will affect you as a Photoshop user is the new ACR engine. If you shoot RAW, the new ACR engine in Lightroom is the same one that's going to be in Photoshop, and from what I'm hearing is that engine alone makes it worth the upgrade. The comment from somebody like Scott Kelby, who was a pretty well-known photographer, says your images will absolutely look better.
Wow.
Whatever that means. So.
Yeah. So are you shooting in RAW, Stacie?
Oh yeah.
Okay. All the way, huh?
All the way.
Now, there's something I noticed when I was looking at your color images. There's like a creaminess to them that I really like. It's like there's some depth to them because they're creamier. And there's a little bit of haze, but that's not what grabs my attention. It's the creaminess in the colors. How do you feel like you're accomplishing that?
Probably all the layers. I will admit that the one action that is purchasable that I use a lot is one of the Lily Blue actions called Sweetwater.
I love Lily Blue. Yeah, I like them too.
It's the only one in the set that I like. The rest of them I don't like. But that one, there's something about that one that's just like magic.
It's just very soft.
Yeah.
Without it looking fuzzy.
Yeah, it doesn't make it look purple. It doesn't make it look orange. It doesn't make it look vintage. It just kind of smooths out the tones.
Is this one that I have pulled up that you would say that?
Which one are we looking at here?
It's in chat.
Oh yeah, I love that.
I have I think all but one of the ones that you had listed as your favorites.
I don't think that's a Lily Blue one, but it's the same idea where you're a leveled layer that's kind of crimping the colors in a little bit, and a soft light layer that creates that kind of fill that smooths everything out just a tiny little bit.
Let's see. I think I have others.
Anna's asking what the action was again. It's by Lily Blue, and it's called Sweetwater.
It's in a set. Hold on, I will check what the name of that set is.
And I will tell you guys out there that it's really sometimes hard to swallow buying a whole set of actions when you feel like there's just going to be one in there. But hindsight, when you find that one that does it for you, it's worth it. And it might be a different one for you in that set. There's been times where I've had photographers that I have really admired. In fact, that's why I bought my very first Lily Blue set, is from another photographer that I admired. They said that they used one in there. And I bought it, and now I use a completely different action all the time than what they were using. So it worked out great.
It's called Waterplay by Lily Blue. Though I know that Sarah Cornish is in chat, and I bet if we ask her, she will tell us something that My Four Hens offers that is that same similar look.
Yeah, I love it. And Sarah's got some great stuff, too. I just love her stuff as well. It's awesome. Okay, so what's your favorite lens? Do you have a favorite lens?
Oh, yeah, 135 millimeter.
Yeah.
Best lens ever.
A prime?
Yes.
What's the available aperture on that?
It opens up to 2, and that's pretty much always what I shoot at, either 2 or 2.2.
Okay. Yeah, I'm having a hard time with the lens that I have right now because it only opens up to a 4, and so just today it dawned on me, you know you can sell that. And I was like, oh, yeah. I can get rid of that 4. I like my ones that open up a lot more. Sorry, Mike, did you have something?
No. I was going to say definitely. F4 is your wide open as you can go in that lens.
It's my. Hold on, I got to pull it out.
Yeah, because that's already pretty stopped down. So I didn't realize Sarah was out there. We need to get her to come back and do the giveaway pretty soon.
It's a 24-105, so it's a pretty decent lens, but it only opens up
to F4.
And that's not enough for me.
No, F4.
Yeah, I love to. I mean, I know it's the cliche now, the mom with the camera who shoots wide, but that's how I shoot. And
I don't know how else I do it, honestly. I just don't. I mean, especially for portrait work, you know, you want your subject to stand out, and you get that by using, you know, wide apertures.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
A lot of photographers try and avoid that noise and the grain in their pictures, and you really embrace it. Can you tell us what attracts you to that noise and grain in your images?
I think, I mean, it's part of also why I like Holga's. Is what I'm kind of looking for in images is that sense of the imperfect, that sense of we're looking at. Let me back up a little bit. I'm going to get all really pretentious for a moment. I'm really sorry.
I like it.
We have in our heads, even though we know that it's not true, that a photo is reality. We've been trained to think that when you look at a photo, that's what really happened. And what most people want to do with portraits is kind of keep you thinking that while making people look better. That's why we run liquefy, and we make people's bags go away, and their hair a little puffier, and their teeth a little whiter, and you know, all those misspent adolescent acne gone.
Right.
So it's like you, but better, and then someone will look at it and say, oh, that must be reality because it's a picture. But I kind of want to push it the other way, even though I absolutely clean that stuff up because no one wants to get distracted by the fact that they've got a giant zit on their nose.
Right.
Into this sort of idea of, I know this isn't real. I know this is a picture. I'm sort of breaking the fourth wall, is what you'd call it if you were working in theater, where it's like, no, this is pretend. This is not reality. This is, it's one of the reasons I like Blur a lot, where you're like, this isn't real. This is not the way that you really see things.
Mm-hmm.
To sort of push it a little bit more into that sort of fine art world of making you think about what is this a picture of, not just, oh, it's my kid and she's cute.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you're right. It's almost an insult if someone says, oh, wow, you look great in that picture. I'm like, in that picture? Come on.
You know, the other thing I noticed when I was looking at your photo, Stacie, is, you know, the image that you talked about, the It's really clean. It's really sharp. You know, all that look. You see that everywhere. What your work stands out because it's different, and to me at least.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. It's like that perfectly imperfect sense of a photograph. Those happen to be my favorite moments too. One of my personal favorite pictures I have right now was when I was outside taking pictures of my boys, and of course I wanted them to sit perfectly still, and I wanted you to sit right here so I have time to adjust my aperture and get everything right, and hold on, you have a booger, let me get it out. And so I'm frazzled as a mom, and as I'm about to melt down because I can't get one good picture of my kids, my little boy comes and tackles me, and so I'm on my back just kind of shooting as he's coming at me, and that was my favorite picture out of all of them. It was like the most perfectly imperfect moment. I have no idea what my settings were. I'm sure they were set at something close to what they needed to be because the picture came out great, but it wasn't the one that I set up that I loved. It was the one that just kind of happened to me that I loved.
You know, when you say that, I'm sort of like the one that you've got pulled up on chat right now is the two kids looking at each other through the Holga. And that was my Christmas card shot. That's what we put on our Christmas card.
I love it.
I love that too.
That I had this whole high concept. I was going to have her holding this globe, and she has a peace dove on her shirt, so it was going to be peace on earth, and he was going to be the photographer taking a picture of her. And it was this very like elaborate concept shoot.
Yeah.
And this is what I got.
Yeah. And you're like, put the camera down. Oh, what the heck? I'll just take some pictures.
Yeah, it was just like, and I feel like I need to stop trying to do that because when I'm just like, we're going to go someplace and I'm going to control certain elements. So I'm always like, okay, I can control the clothes. And there's still only 5. I can control what they wear.
Yeah.
And if you have a client, you can't always, but you can usually talk people into being reasonably well dressed.
Yeah. Exactly.
With some occasional, like, dramatic exceptions.
Right, exactly.
I mean, you can control the light. I mean, you can go a place where you know the light is good, the time of day that you're there.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you've controlled those variables, just let people go.
Yeah.
You know, for me, when I look at this image, and it's when I look at it real quick, I almost see the formation of a heart. You know, it's the two kids. You know, I don't know what their relationship is, but they you know, obviously are like being there together, they're having fun, and I can see almost the formation of a heart by the way their heads are and their arms are.
Oh, I never saw that, but now that you say that, I do see it.
I totally do too.
And it's like
Yeah,
when
I
I
agree.
see it out of the corner of my eye, I see that, and it's yeah. So I see that. I see the.
They're very close.
And you know, Kathleen, one of my favorite images, you can't hardly see it, but it's the one that's right over here, was I was sitting in the driveway, and my son came running at me after I told him to stay out there. I'm going to take your photo. He come running at me, and that's one of my favorite photos of all time. You can't hardly see it, but I have it posted on my wall, 20 by 30.
I know. I've had to make a habit of taking pictures that I take with my kids and putting them on my computer and then walking away for a month or two. Because if I look at them right away, all I can remember is how much
irritated I was.
Yeah.
trying to get them to do what I want. I can't handle it. But then I walk away for a month, and then it's not quite as fresh and angering to me.
You know, that's one of the really beautiful things about film, is with film, you're just like, you have to have that downtime.
Yeah.
You have to be like, okay, I'm putting it in the bag, I'm sending it away, and I'll see it in 2 weeks.
Gotta let go of the control of it. Gotta let go of the control of it. Oh my goodness, I love it. That's awesome. Okay, so now here's a question. Do you find that your clients are drawn to your favorite image of the bunch, or are they tend to drawn to a completely different image?
About 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
About half the time, the picture they love is the picture that I loved.
Uh-huh.
But sometimes the thing that I thought was the most beautiful picture from the entire session, they don't buy at all. They don't even buy one like it.
Yeah.
And I'm like going, why did you hire me if we have such different aesthetics when what you're hiring is, well, okay, as long as you're happy. I mean,
Right, I know.
I wouldn't edit it if I didn't think that it was a good picture. But, you know, every session has the picture that seems magical and the picture that seems like, well, okay, it's a 5x7, you know, close-up of your kid smiling.
Yes. Every once in a while there's that image that I'm just like, oh, this is the one. And then I'm just like, okay, but I need to give them 25 great ones. Here's number 25. And then that's the one they want huge in their house. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, that was just like Throw in number 25.
Yeah. That always just blows my mind when that happens. And I'm just like, really? That was like the second tier gallery filler. That's the one you love?
Yeah.
But you know, that's kind of what makes photography such a great art, is that we all have our own likes and dislikes. We all, we look at photography different. And just going through your site, Sarah, Stacie, you had the ones that you picked as your favorite from 2011, and I like a lot of those. But I found a couple others that I like too. When I look through it, it's like the one of the baby that was mad.
Mad Baby. I love Mad Baby. Those the ones that you pulled are all the favorites of my kids. For some reason, my blog wasn't showing the client favorites. It's being grouchy.
Yeah, I really wanted to look at that one, and I'm going to pull up the Mad Baby one. I like that one. I got 3 of them that I liked, in addition to the ones you picked. But there's Mad Baby. But that's what makes, if we all had the exact same taste, we would only need 1 or 2 photographers.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's so true.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, show us the other ones that you wanted to show us.
Okay, so here's another one. I like this one that's coming up, and it's the interaction of the 2 kids. I guess mainly the one kissing the other one. I like that one. And then this one's gonna be a little. Let's see. Why is that not working? There we go.
That's one of those moments where you're just like, in your head, you're picturing, when I tell this 2.5-year-old to go kiss his brother, he's going to plant one right on his lips, or at least sweetly on his cheek. And then he goes over and he plops it on the top of his head, and you're like, well,
there we go.
That's what they do. Yeah.
I like this one, too, for whatever reason.
Yeah, I like this one.
Oh, that's adorable. Tell us about that picture, Stacie. That's adorable.
All right, so this is actually... the mother of this child is a friend of mine. We are in hippie playgroup together, and she got backyard chickens. And like many people who live in the suburbs who get chickens, she doesn't consider them farm animals the way that our grandparents would have. They are pets.
Yes.
And she wanted me to come over and get a picture of each chicken. So I went to her house and we tried to get a picture of every single chicken. And this was then her youngest, is now her second to youngest, because she just had a new baby 2 weeks ago.
Aww.
Hugging her chicken.
I love it. And I just love the colors in that chicken because it gives the photo such a boost of contrast.
It does. Even though it's black and white, that chicken really boosts the contrast.
It really does. It's such a cool shot. And how fun to grow up with chickens as pets. It's so different from the norm.
And that little girl looks like she's, it's not like she's been forced to do it.
No. This was totally lifestyle. Because I wasn't trying to get pictures of the kids. I was trying to get pictures of the chickens. So that was one of those, like, turn around fast. She's being cute.
Right, yeah. Quick, get that.
Still, this one's my favorite. Mad Baby.
Yeah. Tell us about that picture. What was going on there?
He's eating dirt.
Eating dirt. Awesome.
He had just tasted dirt. In his little closed fist, there's dirt, and he just put it in his mouth and discovered he didn't like the taste.
So do you find yourself shooting for your clients or shooting for yourself? Like if a client comes to you and says, I really want a family picture with all of us looking, are you going to say, that's not what I do? Or do you like, we'll try our best to fit one in, but we'll just kind of see how the session goes?
If someone says to me, I want a picture of all 3 kids looking at the camera and smiling, I will do my darndest to get it for them.
Yeah.
I sort of try to nail the shot that they say they want first. So if someone says, I want the 3 kids together, smiling together, I'll get that picture first, because that's the one that they've said is the most important. And then I'll try and get the close-ups of each kid, and then I'll start moving into the more fun pictures.
Just kind of organic, letting what happens, and capturing the moment.
Yeah. But again, if someone really says, this is what I want, I'm going to nail that one first before the kids are over it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true.
Because once they're over it, letting them roam free is what's going to get us our favorite picture.
Right.
That's going to be the best one. This image is so gorgeous that you have up right now. It almost looks winterish.
It is winter. She's standing in snow.
Oh, I see her feet. Yeah, she's in snow. Oh, that's beautiful. I was just looking at the tone and the color of the picture. Now
I'm into Stacie's group of favorites, right, Stacie? I think this.
Yeah, that was one of the ones. I took that last January. That's one of my favorites from 2011.
Did you have?
Where is that one?
That is in, I think the town is technically Bloomfield, Connecticut.
Okay. It's gorgeous. Now, a lot of people have a hard time exposing for snow. A lot of people, when we take our images, we blow the snow out because we're exposing for, I guess, the subject. Do you have any tips about photographing in the snow that would kind of help us get a correct exposure for the snow?
Expose it so the snow is as bright as you can get it without blowing it. Take a couple test shots, check your histogram. You can't bring the snow back, you can bring a face up.
Right. So
plus, snow tends to be reflective, so faces are going to be lighter than you're thinking anyway. And don't shoot in the sun. Wait for a cloudy day.
Right. Wait for the overcast moment. Mm-hmm.
Now, is this one film or is this one digital?
That's digital.
Okay. Is in your list of your favorites, do you know if there was a film one?
Oh, yeah. The girl jumping is film, which is in the backyard. That's actually medium format film. The boy with the blanket, that is medium format film.
That one is so creamy. Can you pull that one up?
Which one?
The little boy lying with the blanket.
Okay.
Right there. That is so creamy. How in the world is that film?
Wait.
That I will say is edited a lot. That's
the boy
got
with the blanket, right? This one.
The little boy with the blanket.
Yeah, this one that you've got up right now with the jumping, that's just a straight negative scan. I didn't do anything to that. That was.
Love it. The moment, the emotion that you caught there is awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, this is just stunning. I just love it.
Let's see, the kids with the blueberries, that's film. This is film. This is heavily edited. The negative's really ugly, actually. It's quite underexposed. So I pulled it into ACR first and pulled the exposure up a little bit, and then pulled it into Photoshop. And I think I ran NoiseWare 3 times on this.
Right, because it was so noisy.
That's
why I was wondering. That's why I couldn't tell if it was film, because I was missing the noise.
Yeah.
No, this one, it was so underexposed. I mean, I wouldn't have done anything. I mean, I would have tossed it, except I loved the moment.
Oh, you had to keep this. I mean, it's precious.
And this one is actually hanging right now in a show at the Center for Fine Art Photography in Fort Collins, Colorado, in their Portraits 2012 show.
Yeah, so we haven't talked anything about that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Because you do fine art shows, don't you?
I do. I try to set myself a goal of submitting to one show every other week. Okay. I'm trying to put together 2 cohesive bodies of work right now. There will be sort of 2 separate themes. One of which is the Breastfeeding in Real Life series, which is a motherhood series. And the other one is one that I call We Are Such Stuff, which is a quote from Shakespeare, which is sort of slowly coalescing with this idea of childhood as this kind of weird, distorted dream.
Okay. You know, how do you find enough exhibits to do it that often?
Oh Lord, there's a gazillion. There's tons and tons and tons of exhibits available. I mean, all over the country all the time.
So do you actually go to these exhibits, or you just submit your work?
No, I don't travel. I usually submit digitally, and then you ship the images.
Okay, and do people buy your stuff there?
I laugh. I've never sold one.
But is that the point of it?
I mean, in theory, that is the point. I mean, at this point, I'm just trying to sort of get a sense for how to, which are the good shows. Eventually, I want to put together a good printed body and take it to portfolio reviewers. We're putting things in front of gallery owners at some of the larger events.
That's awesome.
We talked a bunch of shows back about motivation. And one of the motivations for me is to enter this contest that our city has every year, and that sounds like great motivation is to get your photos into those galleries. Yeah, those exhibits.
It's an absolute ego stroke. It's absolutely like, hey, a respected person in the professional fine arts community said that picture's good. Yeah. They don't know the kid. They aren't related to the kid. They have no emotional attachment in any of it.
Right. Yeah, no, that's and we all need some type of motivation to keep us going in this craft. What does it motivate you to take the next picture and get out there? So that's good.
Tell us a little bit about your webinars that you're doing. You said it's an editing webinar?
I do. I'm doing an editing webinar on February 18th. It is a 1-hour a Photoshop digital editing webinar on how you asked about the color, how I do the color. It's like, here's how to take 10, 15 layers and take one picture. And it's the sort of thing that I did a breakout session with Click and Moms, which is a portrait board, which the name is terrible. It's actually not just mother taking pictures of the kids. But one of the things that I
Click and Moms the other morning, and I was on there all morning, and I'm not even a member. This was just on the blog. It was great. I'm gonna.
Yeah, it's a really good resource.
Yeah, it is.
But I did this breakout session, and one of the things that I included was sort of a 10-minute editing piece on how I edited one picture, and it had to be really short because I just was recording it with a screen capture, and the file got huge. So I was like, all right, I've got to keep this really simple. But a lot of people were sort of like, okay, I want to know how you do other pictures. How do you do this? How do you do that? And I can't. It's all so specific. So when you talk about it, it's like, okay, well, I'm looking at this picture, and the reason that I'm picking this color fill layer is this. Okay, so I know I want to start with something kind of purple because I want to pull out the purple in her skirt and the purple in the barn behind her, and now I'm going to pull it up, and now I'm going to start poking at it to see, you know, which one I like. So much of it's organic that I can't explain it except live. Yeah.
What a great opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, you learn something just by watching somebody else do that. I mean, whether, you know, you would edit it exactly the same way, it's still interesting, and I learned by watching other people do it. So that's great.
Yeah, totally. That day that we did the online stuff, I learned a bunch from what you showed us in Lightroom, and a lot of people, we had great feedback about just showing some editing stuff. It's like Photoshop is so in-depth. There's no way two people are going to do everything exactly alike.
Exactly. You know, just like taking a photo, we all have a different eye. The editing, we all have a different eye, so we can all learn from each other.
Oh, no, yeah, you could line 10 people up with the same lens, the same light, the same kid, the same outfit, the same place. Be like, you each get 5 minutes, go. And every picture would look totally different.
Exactly.
Yeah. I was reading on something about copyright and suing for intellectual property, that sort of thing, and legally, you cannot, there's no such thing as copywriting a photographic idea. So, for example, like you said, if I see a photo of yours where it's, you know, a blonde-headed child in a purple dress in front of a daisy field, and I'm like, ooh, I love that combination, I can go do it, and there's nothing legally saying that you copyright that idea.
Yeah, you can't copyright a pose, you can't copyright an idea.
You can't. I thought that was really interesting because, you know, in the market, there's so much of, you know, oh, well, that person's just copying such and such photography, and isn't that a terrible thing? And, you know, the way I view it is that if you're going to learn how to play the piano, you're going to go and try and mimic a really great pianist. That's what you're going to go do. You're going to go watch them. You're going to go study them. You're going to learn exactly how they do it so that you can do it the same way. And then the more you do it and feel your way through of doing it like a pro, you yourself become a pro, and then it becomes yours. It's no longer theirs.
I really, really hate this kind of like, she's copying her and it's not her thing, and she's, because, I mean, if you were studying painting, one of the things they would tell you to do is mimic this guy's style and mimic that guy's style. Not because you're going to turn into Magritte or Picasso, but because you're going to learn techniques in doing that.
You're going to learn
trying to replicate that thing. You'll be like, oh, what I really like, these are the 10 things that are making their picture work. But the 3 that I like that I'm going to pull away are these 3, and I'm going to use those in all of my work.
Yeah, don't you think that even though if you start off copying somebody, the more you do it, the more you develop your own style, and you start to drift away from that copying into your own style? That you may have started off there, but you'll eventually have your own style.
You would have to be very, very determined to be able to deliberately mimic someone.
Yeah.
Long term.
Exactly.
Right, yeah. You might pull it off in 1 or 2 shots, and it might look super duper close, but long term, you know, there's only going to be a few things that sit right with you and that sink into who you are as an artist that sticks around. So I think it's great. I think if someone's starting out, I think you should find photographers that you love and study them and follow what they do, and then eventually you'll kind of feel your way through. And then for the photographers that are professionals, that's a huge compliment. I mean, the fact that people would try and paint like Picasso, that's a compliment to him to show how great he is. And even though someone else might be trying to mimic themselves after you, we all have to rest well in ourselves to know that we can never be replaced and we can never be actually duplicated.
Yeah.
So I think it's great.
And I think, Stacie, as you're going to help other photographers and have that online editing webinar that you're doing, that goes to that too. Is you know that no matter, if you showed them everything you did, that they would not be able to copy exactly you, because ultimately they're not you. They don't have your eye. They can't, do exactly you. They're going to be their own person.
No. I mean, I could spend 20 hours with someone and we could do endless, here's exactly how I do it. And a week later, they're still going to be doing their own art because they see the world through their vision.
Right.
I mean, there's that sort of idea that whenever you create a picture of any art from any kind, it is to some extent a self-portrait because it's reflecting your fears, your hopes, your dreams, your history, your hang-ups. All of that stuff that's yours is going to come out, whether you want it to or not. So, I mean, unless you lived my life, you're not going to take my picture even in the same exact technique and style.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any other photos that you wanted me to make sure I showed?
I trust your judgment.
Well, here, I will, I don't know if y'all can see them when I put them in the smaller thing.
I love that one.
We can keep talking, and then if y'all see one you want me to pull up, we can talk about.
Where is this? Is this an old library?
No, that is it's an old chicken barn, actually. It is in, the town is not, it's right outside Ellsworth. It is called the Old Chicken Barn. It's in Maine, and it is, they turned this old chicken barn, quite literally. The first floor is all antiques, and the second floor is all used books.
It's gorgeous. And whose little girl is that?
That is mine.
Yeah, I love it.
And I think you titled this one Escape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
She is, by the way, 100% over having her picture taken.
So are my kids.
I think every photographer's kid's over them having their picture taken.
Yeah, even if they're not required to look at the camera, my kids are over it. Do you feel like you prefer black and whites to color, or does it depend on the image?
A lot of times it depends on the image. Like the one you've got up right now of the boy who's smiling, the light is so flat that in black and white it wouldn't be very pretty.
Yes, I've noticed that about some images. You just can't make them black and white if they weren't meant to be.
Yeah. Like this one, I don't like the light in it in black and white. It's film. I shot it in black and white is what it is. The light on her is really flat. But if it were color, I mean, that dress is this horrid, one of those, horrid dresses people give your children. There are 3 million colors. And then there's the flowers in the background. So it would be such a riot of color you wouldn't notice the person.
Which one is that one?
It was the girl jumping.
Girl jumping.
Oh, okay.
And tell us about this one. Are they eating strawberries?
Blueberries. We went to a local pick-your-own farm, and they are stuffing their faces. And this is the sulky look of 2 children who've been asked just to take a snapshot to send to Grandma. Could you just stop right there, and then we take one picture to send to Grandma.
Our kids, man, they're going to have to go through some therapy, aren't they? All these pictures we're taking of them. Oh, it's beautiful.
Well, they've learned to work it for money now. They charge me.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
They're getting smart in their old age, huh?
Yeah, you don't need to talk to my kids.
Yeah.
I don't think we've talked about this one. This one is different. This one has a mood to it. Is this your daughter also?
That is my daughter. That is about 5 minutes before the sun slips down over the horizon.
Nice.
Obviously, I deliberately dressed her up to take her out. I mean, she doesn't normally go to the park in a princess dress, though she probably would if I let her.
And what does she have there? Feathers or something?
That is milkweed.
Milkweed, okay.
So this was just a day to go out and play in the light. It was freakishly warm some day in October, so it was still about 65 degrees. And I was like, okay, let's go. The light's perfect. It's warm. Pack it up. Let's go.
It's gorgeous.
And we probably shot for all of 10 minutes because then the light was gone.
It's gone. Yeah.
Now, is this film or is this digital?
This is digital.
Okay. We talked about
Oh,
the
I
boy.
love it.
We haven't talked about
And this is
one.
very heavily edited. This was one of those like 20 layers probably pictures.
Which one's that?
It's the one, the Milkweed Princess.
Okay.
Really,
Milkweed
really
Princess.
edited.
And is this your boy? I don't know if
Which
y'all
one are
can
we
see it
looking at
yet.
here?
Hands on chin.
These are all the ones that you've pulled up. These are my kids' favorites of 2011.
Yeah. Okay. So
Ah.
They're all mine.
Did I get your kids' favorites or your favorites? I thought I got...
They're all these. I did 2 sets of favorites, client favorites, and then favorites that were my own kids.
Okay, so these are all your kids.
These are all my kids. That one's mine.
Yeah, and this one you don't see it too well in chat, but it does have more. It has noise, added to it. The grain, not a lot added, but it has noise, the grain, that I think adds to the photo.
Yeah, this is
Adds to the mood.
This is Tri-X 400. This is 35 millimeter film.
Okay. Yeah.
I love it.
Is he giving you that look because he's tired of you taking photos of him? Yeah.
Totally over it.
I've seen that look. Is that the last photo, Mom?
Well, I think what this look actually was how long do I have to sit here to get my $1?
right.
Is it $1 per photo?
No, it's $0.25 per photo.
Okay.
So I've been known to claim, no, I haven't taken one yet.
Wait, the one thing is, I don't know if y'all have done this, and I talked about this like way back on show number 2. I have some photos up on iStock Photo, and one of them is of my son. This was not a planned thing. This was we were camping with the scouts, and he was eating a hot dog, and I got this perfect shot of it was framed correctly. There was nobody else in the background, so I didn't have to worry about model releases, and it was just perfect. And I put it up there, and it has sold like 500 times.
You're
Wow.
kidding.
And we find it in odd places. It was on. I found it on a book in the cover of a book on Amazon, and so we bought 3 or 4 of those.
Yeah.
Strangely enough, it was in a magazine here in the county I live in, and they have no idea where I live when I bought this thing, and all over the web. So my son he wants me to take more photos of him.
He's famous.
I give him a cut. He gets 10% of all my proceeds.
All right, so how much do people make on the stock photo stuff like that?
Well, it depends on what size the customer buys, and you have no idea who the customer is and what they're going to use it for, because he's been used for autism, for the Miami Heat or something. Used them for an ad for their Orlando used it for some kind of food pass or something like that. All over the country, he's been used, and it depends on what size they buy. So it could be as small as $1, or it could be as much as $7 or $8 or something like that. I can't remember exactly what the cut is. But that one photo is made me $700 or $800 just by putting it on iStock. And
Okay, for your microphone.
Yeah, I never check. I just put them up there and
That's
never
a
check
great
on them. But
idea.
yeah, the thing is, you need a model release.
Not if
for
it's
anybody
your
can do.
kids, right?
No, you still need a model release. You can, as a guardian, you can
sign it yourself because you're the.
I am totally fine with pimping my kids out.
Yeah, and then you go on there and you look and see what is the thing that's selling. But anyway, my point of all that was I guess I pay him that way, and will let me take his photos for that purpose.
There you go, Stacie. Let your kids know.
Your picture sells. You get a cut.
That's
You get a
right.
cut.
Then you don't have to pay the quarter.
That's right. This Holga image that you have up right now, I guess it's your son eating a sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
I'm amazed that that's Holga. Obviously, I see the distortion around the edges, but he is so stinking sharp.
That is actually one of the things that I really try to do with the Holgas when I do this. I try to do Holgas that are sort of unexpected to people who are used to them, and that they are sharper than you'd expect.
Have you ever played with the 45 millimeter TSE lens on your digital camera?
I have not.
I think that you would really like that.
I have a really hard time with wide angle lenses. I have a 28 millimeter, and I cannot wrap my head around exactly how to use that compositionally. I don't know if you know Lisa Lucky's work.
I know, never heard of her.
She's on our list.
She is unbelievably good with the wide angle lenses. I mean, it's just stunning.
I know one girl who uses that who's actually coming on the show. Her name is Laura Leslie. You should check her out as well. And I'm pretty sure that she shoots in live view when she's using that lens.
Wow.
Isn't that kind of interesting? So that should be fun. I'm sure we'll ask her about that when she comes on the show.
So what lens do you normally use when you shoot with a 35 millimeter, Stacie?
With the 35 millimeter camera?
Yeah, I think that's reading a message from chat.
135 millimeter.
I'm sorry?
The 135 millimeters.
Oh, the 135. Yeah. Okay. And
That's
is that your
favorite, huh?
your favorite? Is that your favorite on digital also?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, I like long lenses so much, I bought a 250 millimeter lens for my medium format camera.
Wow. I ran into a guy this past weekend who was shooting with a Nikon 200 millimeter f2 lens.
Ooh. Yeah, I've seen that lens.
It's the first time I've seen it in person. Holy crap, that thing is humongous.
Huge.
I thought it must have been, it looked too big to be a 300-2.8. And I asked him, I said, that looks too big to be a 300-2.8, but it's too small to be a 400. What is it? And he said it's a 200 f2. The 200 f2 is bigger than the 300-2.8.
It's huge.
At least it looked that way to me. Of course, it's also $6,000.
$1,000, yes.
Oh, Stacie, thank you so much for coming on the show. You've been really inspirational to me. I think the favorite thing for me that you said tonight was that you're always looking for the sense of imperfect in your images. That's something that's going to certainly stick with me because you're right. We try and make people look so perfect in their images, and that's just not what life is all about. I see a huge trend. I do newborn photography, and I've seen a huge trend with portraiture being completely overused and babies looking so perfect that they can't possibly be real. They look like dolls.
Yeah, so, it's a delicate touch there with the newborns to like get rid of the newborn blotchiness without making them look
totally. I've given
weird.
People full range to please come and tell me if you ever see a plastic baby on my page of something that I've done, because I think it's something easy where your vision gets skewed, and it can be easily overlooked that imperfect is what's beautiful. So thanks for saying that.
Yeah, yeah. So we're now at the hour. Do you want to bring it out to chat and let chat ask some questions, or do y'all have some more? I know I didn't get to every one of the photos. So if there's a photo you wanted me to bring up, I have a few more. Or we can just open up the chat.
I'm excited to see what happens in chat. What do you guys have out for us out there?
I've tried to keep up with a few of the messages and chats. Somebody said, oh, Melissa Sanchez is out there. She was our winner of Rachel Brinke workshop giveaway, I believe.
Yes, anybody out there have questions for Miss Stacie?
And somebody else also said something about Lisa Lucky. You know, Stacie, I actually tried to get Lisa to come on the show at a future date, and I don't think we're having any luck right now.
Well, I hope you can get her because she is really inspirational.
Yeah, well, I haven't given up.
And unbelievably frustrating because usually if there's someone's work that I really like, I can, even if it's not my style, I can figure out what they're doing and I can kind of replicate the technique, even if it feels awkward and stilted.
Uh-huh.
And with her work, I simply cannot dissect it. I cannot. I mean, she's explained it. I've seen her explain it on forums a number of times, and I'm still left going, I don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's sometimes very hard to yeah, what do you call that? Reverse engineer what somebody else did. So, okay, do you use Flash? Melissa
that was
asked.
a question I was going to ask too. Thank you, Melissa, for bringing that up. Are you always using natural light? Do you ever use any studio lighting or reflectors or Flash?
I don't use reflectors because I don't have an assistant, and I'm much too lazy to carry stuff around. Mm-hmm. I've gotten very good at finding natural reflectors. Ponds are your friend, and concrete is your friend. Mm-hmm. I don't use any sort of studio lighting. I do use a bounce speed light when I have to.
Like off a ceiling or a wall?
Off a ceiling or a wall.
Mm-hmm.
So I never really thought about the concrete. Obviously, that makes sense. You use a wall bouncing off a wall or something like that, but it'll also bounce off of concrete and come up on the person too.
Oh, concrete's wonderful because it's white or it's gray, so and it's matte, so it's this wonderful
diffused light. Yeah,
diffused reflector.
Yeah, that's very
What do I use if the ceiling or wall is too far away? I do have the Gary Fong domey thing to sort of diffuse a flash and do it straight on. But I don't tend to like that. I really never, if it's a client, I mean, if it's a wedding, you just kind of work with it. You're just like, okay, we're here, we're working, we're going. And I'll shoot at, I'll push stuff to 3200 and shoot at 3200 if I have to.
You'd rather have the grain, obviously, than
Yeah.
like a flat.
The flat light from a flash,
Right.
a non-bounced flash.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I'm with you there. I'd much rather have the grain than have that
You get
flat face.
an offer from chat to carry your stuff.
Very funny, Miriam.
Yeah, you know, I don't have the Gary Fong, but I do have flash diffusers, and that, if people don't know, that is the hot shoe flash, the thing you're putting on top of your camera. It's a diffuser to help diffuse that harsh light coming out of the flash. And it's just, it never is, at least the ones I have. I don't have the Gary Fong, but the ones I have just never diffuse it as much as I would want to.
Yeah, the Gary Fong doesn't diffuse it enough either.
Yeah.
It's better.
It's right. It's definitely better than straight flash, or even that little lens, that little flash cap that I don't have Canon, but the Nikons come with this little
The
dome.
little plasticky cap thing to stick over it. Yeah.
Yeah, that does help a little bit, but nowhere near as much. And this is your first time using Google Plus. If you get a little thing that says, "Are you still here?" make sure you click that.
Ah, it's asking me, am I still here?
Yeah, because it will kick you out.
Stacie, sorry, did you get it?
We have most people in chat right now. People are coming in right now. I don't know if...
I think that we're some people in the UK that we're jumping in.
Yeah.
One thing I love about your website, Stacie, is how unapologetic you are about what your policies are and how people should take their portrait session seriously and how much time and thought you're putting into it. I like it because I feel like when I started in the industry, I feel like I had to please everybody. And the older I get and the longer I've been there, I know that that's quite impossible. And so just to say it like it is on my website so people know, and you're very clear about what your expectations are and what theirs should be as well. And I'm just wondering, where did you gain that confidence from, just to kind of put it out there?
Oh, I've always been a pushy bitch.
I like it.
Do I use a lens hood religiously? Yes, Sarah. It never comes off. Question in chat. So a lot of the policies started, and pretty much, I cut and paste to start with, I think 3 or 4 years ago, from sort of recommendations on ILP. Mm-hmm. And it slowly adapted to like there's one that's like, you can't have a dog. And that's because, of course, I had the person who brought the dog, and the dog was horrible. It was just like an awful, awful dog.
Bad experience. I'm not doing that again. Yeah.
So, and if it was someone who said, no, I really, we're doing it at my house. My kids love this dog. Can we do a picture of the dog? And then I swear I'll have my husband take the dog away, and the dog won't bother you. I'd be like, sure, no problem. But you're not bringing the dog to the park unless you have some sort of nanny who can then take the dog away.
Right. I think it's really smart because, I find myself trying to tackle things hindsight. And so, and then I keep tackling it hindsight with every client. Like, one of my favorites is when, Grandpa comes along on the photo shoot and brings his own camera. And I've just gotten so over of having family members confused as where their attention is supposed to be or who the photographer is. And so finally I was just like, I'm done with this. And I just put it on my website. I'm the photographer. No more cameras at the shoots except for mine. And you get a better response from it, I think, if you're up front with what your expectations are. So that's really good.
What's funny is I don't think I've ever really had a problem with that one. I mean, that's almost sort of one of the cut and paste ones from original, except for the addition of not even a cell phone. Because I certainly never had someone bring out a real camera, but I have had people sort of whip out a cell phone and had to be like, you know what, you can do this when I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had not like a DSLR or anything, but I've had like people bring their point and shoots. And I've had one father especially, as soon as I was done and started to move the family to the next area that we were going to do something, he's like, wait, I want to get a picture. And I'm like,
There went my sale.
That's not gonna happen. Yeah.
I was going to come with you next time, Kat.
Sorry.
Yeah, I muted myself because I was typing. I'm going to come with you next time, Kathleen, and shoot exactly where you shoot.
Oh, it's like they're breathing into my head. I'm just like, ah.
Well, I'll stand just a tad back and have a little bit longer lens so I can get the exact same shot.
Right. I love it. Thank
With
you.
slightly better background separation.
That's
Yes,
right. There we go. So tell us about your lens hood. I saw that Sarah asked if you always use a lens hood. Does that cut down? Does that keep you from getting flare? Are you not a friend of flare? Is that not your friend?
Flare is not my friend. I actually love Sarah's work because she uses flare. I've actually got this sitting here. So here's my lovely lens hood here.
Lens hood. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't do flare, and in fact, I want to try. There was something I saw online once, and I have not been able to track it down again, which was something you could clip onto your lens hood to make it even longer. So it was like this little flap that you could clip onto it.
Well, you got to be careful. If you go too long, you'll start getting it in the photo. It'll start.
Yeah, it was something that you could kind of like sort of like adjust it with like a little weird army thing that you could pull it out there and kind of.
Huh? I hadn't seen
extra
that.
bit of shading. I wish I had bookmarked it, and of course I didn't.
So you like backlight because I saw that in a lot of your pictures.
Yeah, I do. I love backlight. I don't like.
But you're not into.
I love Sarah's haze. I'm so angry that Sarah moved to Denver before I got her to do family pictures, because she does this beautiful, this backlight and this haze, and everything is so soft and so beautiful, and that's totally not what I do. I want to have that backlight and still have everything be, most of the time, really sharp.
Yeah, I just love that we can all have different styles and that they're beautiful in and of itself. You know, I think that's great. Because there's a lot of photographers that I see that I'm just like you were saying, I want to dissect that so bad, but I just can't figure it out. And so I guess I just have to keep doing what I do. It's awesome.
Yeah, I use a lens hood all the time myself. One thing, it helps protect the lens. Whoop, did we lose?
Did I disappear?
No, I think Tim. I saw something going on. I think Tim didn't click his "I'm still here" button.
Yeah, I never saw it.
Am I still here?
You're still here, Stacie.
I know. I'm just saying there's some button because I don't see a thing saying, "Are you still here?"
You should. I think it only happens like every hour to hour and a half. So
okay.
If you've already clicked it, Kathleen should be coming up, if she hasn't.
I just got mine. I'm good to go.
Of course, I got to make sure the broadcast server doesn't go away.
I had the window half shrunk, so I didn't see it, of course.
Yeah. And before we go, I do want to mention, since we got a lot of people out there, today is the last day to sign up for Sarah's giveaway. Sarah gave us the you buy my store package, and today, January 31st, is the last day to sign up. So if you haven't signed up already, hopefully you're on our site watching this. There's a little link up the top of the window that says jpeg2RAW giveaway. Click on that and sign up before the days.
What a giveaway that is. That's going to be a lot of fun when somebody wins that.
Yeah, and then I'll work out a time with Sarah to come on and announce the winner if she has time.
Stacie, thank you so much again for coming on the show. For people out in chat, I think it would be a great opportunity to sign up for her webinar. I mean, the amount of information that people are going to learn on that is going to be great. So
yeah,
I'm glad that you're doing it.
I have her link up here, and if you're watching video, I have her link up there if you want to go to her webpage. And then we also have it in the show notes, a link to her work. You can go see all her work. It's in both her blog and her website. And I think you also have a Facebook page, too, where you have a bunch of photos posted up there, too. So we'll have a link to that, too, so you can go over there and like that and keep track of what Stacie's doing, keep up to date on all her work.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was great to have you on.
Thank you so much for agreeing to come on, and you've been so helpful to us and given us a lot of inspiration, so we really appreciate it.
Well, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So we're going to go ahead and end the show. Stacie, hang on for a little bit as I end the show. So we're going to see if the end of the show thing works here better than the beginning.
Fingers crossed, people.
So out there in chat, thank you everybody for coming. If you're not part of our Facebook group, join the group and keep up to date with us. And we'll see you next week. See you next week.
See you next week. Bye, guys.
See you next week, everybody.
Good night, everybody. All right, let's try this. ended it too soon. Crap.
Mike, we know that's you playing the music there.
No, that is not me. It's a royalty-free music I got from Amazon, and I ended it just a tad too soon. Gummit.
That's all right. It's our first time.